Hi everyone, it's Steph from the Stellium Astrology podcast, and I am sitting in my car. My little boy is asleep in the back seat, and I thought I would steal a moment and just record a quick episode for you guys. If it's your first time here, I'm the host of the podcast. I'm also the founder of StelliumAstrology.com, and I am also an occasional tutor at the London School of Astrology, and I used to write horoscopes for Elle magazine. And I'm currently recording a bunch of shows on synastry, which is relationship astrology. I'm kind of just looking at people who are in relationships and looking at their individual astrology. There's lots of different ways of looking at charts when you're in a relationship with somebody, but this is like the basic, just comparing the two natal charts. And I'm just going through sort of some of the things that I feel are like poignant for, at a glance astrology. Obviously, all the stuff I cover on this podcast is very light, dipping in very light. I can't give you the deep stuff because at the moment my time doesn't allow. And also, it would be nice if I could, specialise that kind of information and perhaps do courses in the future. But yeah, just for today's episode, I thought, why not look at something really current? And I decided I want to look at Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. Now, that is something that is very controversial. It's, like I said, it's very current, and depending on your personal experience and what you know about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, you're probably one side of the fence or the other. I find it difficult because to share a little nugget of history about myself, I was in an abusive relationship once. I was, with somebody who was quite violent and very controlling. And so I've experienced domestic abuse, domestic violence. And I now have, over the years, I've obviously, I'm not in that situation anymore, but it is triggering when you see somebody in that situation. It makes you want to help them, and you kind of want to, it's really hard to see somebody going through domestic abuse. Now, I'm not saying Amber Heard is going through domestic abuse. All I'm saying is that it is part of what she's saying about her relationship with Johnny Depp. And, there are aspects, I think that people have come out and said that she is an abusive person, like her exes have come out and said that, and she's been violent and she's been controlling. I don't know about their relationship, but that doesn't look great for her. Whereas Johnny Depp doesn't have a succession of exes coming out and speaking out against him. But, it's just one of those things where we're going by what is said in the media. Johnny Depp can obviously afford some really great lawyers. They're both actors, so they are both able to embody a role, a persona that is not their own, and play it in a very convincing way. Particularly Johnny Depp, who is a very successful actor and is, he's played a variety of roles. So, I'm on the fence about it. I'm a very good Mercury-Venus conjunction. Mercury likes to have choice, likes to have options, can see different perspectives. And Venus is very much very diplomatic and is one that would sit on the fence, really, in a fallout, really. The mediator who tries to help you see both sides of the story. So, yeah, just so you guys know, I really have no idea who's in the right or who's in the wrong. I don't know what to make of it. But, it's a very triggering situation for me. And it angers me when I hear men getting angry at Amber. But I also feel like, it's very easy for a woman to say that something's happened and, there's violence and whatever. And people can easily jump to the conclusion that the woman must have experienced some kind of violence for that to be true, when sometimes people just like to cry wolf. So let's forget about all of that for now, and let's talk about the fact that we have a AA rated chart for Johnny Depp, which I got from astro.com. So he's born on the 9th of June 1963 at 8:44 in Owensboro, Kentucky, I think. Now, he has got Sun at 18 Gemini, Ascendant is 12 Leo, and his moon is at 13 Capricorn. I was going to say Cancer. My brain's gone into reverse. So he's got Gemini, Leo, and Capricorn. Unfortunately, Amber Heard's time, there is none. We don't have a time. So I've cast a noon chart because I do that, as you guys know. So we've got like the professional outlook chart, and she's got her sun at 2 Taurus. She's got her moon at 7 Libra. Now, if I just change it and just check it while I'm here with you guys. So if we look at, if she was born at midnight, the moon will have been in Libra. It would be 0 degrees Libra and 41 minutes of arc. So that means that actually, no matter what happens, whatever time of day she was born, her moon is definitely in Libra, but it will be between 0 degrees and 15. So it could be anything up to halfway through Libra. So that's it. Her sun's at 2 Taurus. Her moon is at 7, nearly 8 degrees Libra if we're looking at the noon chart. And there is no ascendant for her. But for the noon ascendant, for the noon chart, the ascendant comes up at 2 degrees Leo. Just saying, because that's what Johnny Depp's got a Leo ascendant as well, which I just find very interesting. Now, just at a glance, the things that really jumping out at me here is that he's got Lilith, Black Moon Lilith, at 5 degrees Scorpio, and her Pluto is at 6 Scorpio. So right on top of that Lilith placement. And Pluto is a generational planet, so it's going to be, for a lot of people born in that time, her date, by the way, is 22nd of April 1986, and she's born in Austin in Texas. Now, anyone born in 1986 is going to have Pluto around 6 degrees of Scorpio, because it doesn't move very far. So that's not too remarkable, but when you see it in relationship synastry, I think it is very interesting, because it describes some darkness, dealing with some of the shadow, and that's really quite low down in the chart actually. So that's in the sort of around the 4th house cusp, if you're looking at equal. So just so you know, Johnny Depp has got his midheaven at 3 degrees of Taurus, and Amber's sun is at 2 degrees, so sits right on his midheaven, and her north node is in Aries at 29 degrees. She's got so she was born around an eclipse actually. I think that actually the moon may well be within the window of the eclipse as well. So usually people born on an eclipse, usually they're quite powerful figures, like I think Donald Trump, am I right? I think Donald Trump yes, he was born, I think he was born on an eclipse, definitely on a full moon, I'm sure it's an eclipse. Usually a lot of like leaders you see with this, it's almost fated for them, it feels. So she's got her north node at 29 Aries, and her south node is at 29 Libra. So it's interesting because having her sun and Johnny Depp's midheaven kind of entwined there with the nodes, and the nodes being in the relationship signs of like Aries of I, and that's the north node, and of the south node in Libra of us. There definitely feels like there's this it feels like for her to really grow in life, she has to be more independent. There's this sense of not leaning on a relationship, and it's interesting that this courtroom drama is playing out. She's also got her Venus at 25 Taurus, right on Johnny Depp's Mercury at 25 Taurus. So that we'd say partile, and his Venus is at 26 Taurus as well. So you can see that there's a connection there, because I think I spoke about it a few weeks ago. One of the strongest things that you can have in synastry is having your Mercury in a good kind of relationship with the other person's Mercury or their other personal planets. So her Venus on his Mercury Venus, he places a lot of value on probably, obviously in Taurus there's like quality and, it's quite earthy and materialistic, it's very tangible, enjoys the physical pleasures. But actually when you've got Mercury in conjunction with Venus in general, having that kind of intellectual connection is important. And her Venus being on top of that, there is a real sense that they share the same values. I think friendship is important to Johnny Depp, and he's described as a serial monogamist, somebody who's repeatedly in relationships, long-term relationships. Amber's Mercury's in Aries, so it's the sign before Taurus. It feels like there might actually be it might be a bit challenging for Johnny's Mercury to be on the same page as that Mercury in Aries that Amber has, because they feel very different, I think. Mercury in Taurus is somebody who talks about loyalty, about trust, probably talks a lot about money and the things around. If you hear him talking, everyone with Mercury in Taurus has a very interesting sounding voice, I think. And actually Johnny Depp's voice is very interesting if you're listening to that trial. He has a very... it's very different to his Captain Jack Sparrow voice that he based on. I think he based it on Keith Moon and one of the Muppets. I think it's Captain Jack Sparrow is based on. I can't remember who now. That's really annoying. But yeah, there's a real sort of like almost like you can touch the voice. It's like audio chocolate for some people. I think Hank Azaria, or is it Hank Azaria? He does a lot of the voice acting on The Simpsons. He's got a very interesting voice, and so does Seth Rogen, who I believe also has Mercury in Taurus. It's like there's a thickness, you can hear it. It's very interesting. But Mercury in Aries is much more self-orientated, probably talks about what they would want more, and is invested in how things will benefit them, but also very goal-driven and very somebody who's very interested in not personal gain, but like doing things their own way. I don't think the problem is Mercury in Taurus is very stubborn, and Mercury in Aries isn't necessarily stubborn, but is just not interested in doing things with other people in mind. You've got to think that Mercury in Taurus is going to be ruled by Mars, whereas Mercury in Aries is ruled by Mars, but Mercury in Taurus is ruled by Venus. So it's there's that relationship theme again with Mars and Venus planets. So it is very interesting to think about those Mercury placements being a bit discordant. There's definitely not a kind of harmony about Aries and Taurus together. They're very different. They've got different priorities. Now, Amber's sun highlighting Johnny's midheaven is interesting, because if we think about what's going on at the moment in this trial, everything is out there. It's all out there. And though she's done some rather distasteful things, and she's not looking so great right now, her sun is spotlighting his everything that he's done. It's like really highlighting everything, because remember, with the midheaven, it's an axis, so you can't affect one without the other. So the midheaven is being highlighted, but therefore it's opposing the IC in his chart. So it's dragging his home life up for speculation. So it's not like her sun's on the IC, so we're not seeing his home life and his family life like maybe you'd see him as a family man in that respect, and you'd see some of the things that he's done for his home life being spotlighted. But it's like her Sun opposing his IC is actually bringing his IC up for speculation, but we still don't really know who is the person who's telling the truth. There's no real clarity on that. He's got Scorpio, his IC is in Scorpio, so it's interesting that there is that sense of, he's always kind of kept it very private. So this all coming out is quite a revelation, and it's very much dramatised, isn't it, in the courtroom? Everything's very out there for everybody to see. Now, actually, her Pluto, she has got a Sun-Pluto opposition, which I thought was really interesting when we heard the story about her. If you don't know about it, she actually went to the toilet in his bed. I think she'd supposedly gone to Coachella, and I think that the way that Johnny Depp described it was interesting. He said, now Coachella is a thing with many, many bands. He didn't say it's a music festival. He said it's an event with many, many bands, and there's lots of music, and it's a big thing. And I thought, isn't it funny that he didn't know just to say it's a music festival? Like, everybody would know what a music festival is, but it's like his slow way of articulating, and very he chooses his words very wisely. I think he's careful about what he says. He's very deliberate. I'd say that's Mercury in Taurus is very deliberate, whereas Mercury in Aries is going to be very hot-headed, and when they want to say something, it's going to fly out their mouth very quickly. May not be so deliberate and so choosy over the words, over the language. So her Sun Pluto opposition is going to be interesting, because she's always going to be pulled into that dynamic. She's either going to be the Sun or she's going to be Pluto. Now we've seen her Pluto, because she went to the toilet in his bed, and people said, Johnny, you don't want to go home right now because you don't want to see what's there. And when they explained it, it was like, wow. And the photo's been leaked. It's like there's no secrets here. It's really being dragged up. And the thing is, Johnny Depp has got an army of fans, of worshippers, basically, who really adore him. So they are prepared to, like I said, nobody really knows what happened, but there are people who are very clearly on one side or the other as far as this is concerned. And it's really interesting who you talk to. But I find that the people that I speak to who have experienced or been in sort of abusive situations are more likely to sit on the fence about it, because they understand the complexities, the way that we can become so entangled with other people. Now, what's interesting about Johnny Depp's chart is he also has the nodes quite close by. He has his south node is at 22 Capricorn, and his moon is at 13 Capricorn, so it's quite closely in conjunction. And what is really interesting about 22 Capricorn is the fact that the Saturn-Pluto conjunction of 2020 happened on that node. It happened at 22 degrees of Capricorn. So Saturn-Pluto will be affecting Johnny Depp. And I don't know all the dates of everything, because like I said, I'm doing a synastry show. I know he lost work with the Pirates of the Caribbean, and his whole reputation has been sort of dragged through the mud, the defamation, as they say. But I think that losing the work, could be very much to do with the fact that Saturn and Pluto happened on his south node in the 6th house in Capricorn. So there's this reputation aspect of Capricorn, this loss of respectability through the accusations. And also with, the midheaven at sort of 3 degrees of Taurus from 2018 onwards, and probably more about, I think in May 2018 Uranus entered Taurus, and then in about January, or was it March of 2019, he re-entered Taurus, and then he stayed there. And I think that Johnny Depp and Amber Heard got together in 2012. And I think she filed for divorce in 2019. So 2019 would have been when Uranus was fully in Taurus. And then in 2020, we have that Saturn-Pluto conjunction happening on his node. So it's very interesting to think of these major transits and what they're doing. And also the Saturn-Uranus square, which happened throughout 2021 happened on around the cusp of his 10th house and his 7th house. So his area of reputation and work and public image, and also his area of relationships, being called into it, partnerships, because he's got his 10th house cusp is at 12 Taurus and his relationship house is at 12 Aquarius, and that's the Uranus sitting up there on his 10th house cusp and Saturn moving around his 7th house cusp. Now also he's currently having his Saturn return, his second Saturn return, which is an extremely tough time, and in his relationship house. So we're now thinking about transits on top of the chart. Not only do we have a relationship here, things playing in together, but we also have transits happening around that. He's also got, just an FYI, he's got Uranus and Mars and Pluto all sitting there in Virgo. Mars and Pluto together is a very powerful combination. It's something that you don't necessarily always... If you were going to get in a fight with somebody, you probably want to avoid getting in a fight with someone who's got a Mars-Pluto conjunction or a square or anything. Is that there's a sense of like having great power and being unrelenting in your ability to use it. The consciousness aspect is where you want to angle this from. You want to make sure that if you've got this conjunction or a square or a trine, I've got the trine, you have to be aware of the power that you possess and use it for good instead of bad. There could be great manipulation, there can be a great ability to endure all kind of weathers as far as an argument or situation is concerned. It can be incredibly committed, and when it decides it knows what it wants, it will go for it and it will be unrelenting about pursuit. However, if you've decided you want somebody to pay for what they've done to you, that also can be, the Mars-Pluto can be used in that respect too. It can be a revenge combination. He's got it in his first house, and with that Uranus as well, it makes him very alternative and very smouldering, and it's almost like that's the kind of thing that people find very sexy about him and very charming. He's got this Venus-Mercury conjunction. He's also got Uranus, that alternative thing, and then that Mars-Pluto, which is very, it's charming, it's magnetic, but like with that Uranian flavour as well, it's very different. So it's kind of like that, there's a forbidden fruit feeling about him. That charm, it also it's lent to his voice as well, and the things he says, his communication style. He's pretty much got everybody in that courtroom on his side in the jury. His sun at 18 degrees of Gemini, he's cracking jokes, he's making light of things, and he's making people laugh. And part of being in a court case is getting the jury on your side. So we can see from the videos that he's incredibly likeable in that respect. And the Amber Heard is kind of up against it with him. She's got Mars in Capricorn, so they've both got Mars in Earth signs, and her Mars is on his moon. So it's a very strong sexual attraction there. But that can also be very, it can go the other way as well. Like in an argument, it can be extremely fiery. I think the problem is with these guys is they've brought out the worst in each other. Her Mars is trine his Pluto. Her Mars is obviously in the same sign as his, in the same element as his Virgo stellium with his Mars and his Pluto and stuff. So her Mars, and she's got Neptune there as well, which is trine his Mars and his, so it's trine his stellium in Virgo. It's very, a Mars-Neptune conjunction can be very good at garnering sympathy and being playing a role of victimization. It can be quite evasive as well, and it can be very passive aggressive. And so he's got that very unrelenting Mars-Pluto conjunction. She's got a Mars-Neptune conjunction. So Mars-Pluto can be like, very focused and pointed and deliberate about what it wants. And a Mars-Neptune conjunction can be very evasive. It's interesting how their Marses are very different, actually. And so let's have a little look as well at what else have we got here. So she's got her Jupiter is on his Chiron as well. So there's this kind of learning about pain, and maybe she's exacerbating his areas of his wounds. Actually, she exacerbates his wounds. Her presence is just magnifying some of his pain in life, some of the things that he struggled with. Interestingly, Juno is opposite his Chiron, so he's got a Chiron and Juno opposition, which, like I said, I don't really go into it, but Juno is a relationship point as well. So there must be some element of pain in relationships, or some element of it's in the victim savior axis of Pisces and Virgo. So it feels like maybe there is a sense of suffering and what is it that the sixth house used to be called? The house of oppression and slavery. There could be a sense of oppression in relationships and wanting to be free and do things, but there's a feeling of, with him being a serial monogamist, it could well be that he's in love with the idea of love, and he loves that connection and that relationship feeling and that exclusivity, but there's also a sense of imprisonment about it. But Chiron tends to be in his 8th house here, if we're looking in the equal house system. So, again, this feels like there's a sort of therapeutic or a need for therapy element here, and that Jupiter hanging around on Chiron in his 8th house is revealing some of perhaps his genetic inheritance, that kind of generational inherited neurosis that he has developed. I think he's come from quite humble beginnings, as far as I'm aware. I don't know about Amber Heard's beginnings. I know she was in Aquaman. That's about all I know about her, really, that she's in one of the worst ever films I've ever seen. I think the only other films that were worse than Aquaman, I think, what was that film called? It was called... it's got I Duddits in it. I Duddits, Jason Lee. It's a Stephen King book. It's going to really annoy me. Dreamcatcher. But yeah, she's in Aquaman, and it's a pretty bad film. But yeah, again, just looking at their Mercury placements, they're in like Aries and Taurus, and then you've got her sun in Taurus and his sun in Gemini. So it's interesting because their charts are kind of like one step behind each other, and they don't quite. Their suns are in signs that aren't quite complementary, and their Mercuries are in signs that aren't quite complementary. Oh, let's go inside. I've had to relocate because Ewan woke up, so I'm just back indoors now, and he's just going to start creating mischief, I can tell. But yeah, I don't know much about Amber Heard's history. I know she was in Aquaman, and apart from that, I don't really know much about her. So yeah, I mean, I don't really know much about Amber Heard, really. Like I said, I'm not really commenting on them as individuals. I mean, I'm looking at their charts individually, and then but what I mean is I'm not like talking a lot about her past or anything, or his past. I'm really more than anything looking at relationship factors in astrology. But it is interesting how, there's a lot of Taurus, there's a lot of Earth in his chart, and she's got Earth too. She's a sun, her sun and her Mars are in Earth signs, and he's got, he's got Uranus, Mars, Pluto, Moon, Midheaven, Mercury and Venus all in Taurus. There's loads of Earth in his chart, but he is ultimately a Gemini. And she's got some air. So she's got that air moon. Like, we don't know her ascendant. She's got some fire, so she's got some stuff in Aries, some stuff in Sagittarius. But yeah, they're kind of you could say that complements in one way, but in another way as well, it creates a sense of contrast. So there may be elements where they just don't quite understand where the other one's coming from. I've had a relationship. So one of my relationships that I had my ex had his Mars on my sun, and it was it was great in some ways, because it was like there was this real spark, but in other ways it was quite fiery. There were challenges there, and that Mars would provoke and prod and pry, which can be challenging. But then there's plenty of, like I've said before in previous episodes, there's lots of things that work in relationships, and there are some things that don't. So like Johnny Depp's Saturn is square Amber's, so it's square his Mercury and Venus conjunction, but it's also square her Venus as well. So there could be, she could feel perhaps sometimes like he's not very forthcoming with compliments maybe, or it could be that his relationship history posed a problem for them because she didn't like the fact that she was one of a succession of wives or girlfriends. There could be a lack of insecurity on her part based on his past. The fact that her Mars is on his moon as well may echo that she got angry about his previous relationships. There could be an element of jealousy there, for example. Her moon in Libra is one that is very relationship focused and likes to, probably gets a lot out of being in a relationship, a lot out of relationships. And he's got a sun in Gemini, so they've got that kind of airy quality that can relate. But he's got his moon in Capricorn. It's quite boundaried. It can be quite, it can prefer to be on its own sometimes. It doesn't necessarily need to be around people. It's quite self-sufficient in some ways, I would say. It's definitely moon in Capricorn. My best friend has moon in Capricorn on my sun. And it's interesting because when she talks about situations, bear in mind I'm a Scorpio moon, I'm very watery. Like my moon is like, Scorpio, like I'm not very watery person, but, I think that a Scorpio moon can make anybody quite watery because it's just so intense. But yeah, like situations where I wouldn't be able to hold back and I'd be very emotional. She's so good at controlling her emotional responses. It amazes me that she is so controlled and so able to just be like, not reveal her vulnerability, to the point that I think sometimes it would be beneficial for her to show people how vulnerable she can be. And I think that in this case with Johnny Depp, again, we see it in the courtroom where he's playing this joker, he's playing his sun in Gemini, he's doing his Mercury and Venus conjunction, getting people to like him, and he's got a lot of people who, this following, who are obviously Team Johnny and don't want him to be dragged through the mud and whatever, regardless of whether he did it or not. But then, this controlled Capricorn moon, this very boundaried, very emotionally impenetrable moon is able to hold it together in such a way. And someone with a Capricorn moon, they have a need to be somebody who's seen to be an expert in some way or another. Like they kind of naturally fall into roles where they progress quite very, very quickly. Natural managers, natural leaders. And he's got that Leo ascendant as well. So he's very good at, courting the spotlight, and he may not have used those things in his chart to his advantage previously. We never really saw him doing anything. There wasn't really any element of, as far as I'm concerned, I don't really know because I'm not really somebody who follows celebrity that much. But, like you see a lot of celebrities that are going to nightclubs and they're falling out drunk, and, there's some people that are like look in quite a bad light publicly, And then there's those who like to, keep the media on their good side so that they can work the media to their advantage. However, it is one of those things with him that he hasn't necessarily had to do it, because he's always seemed to find himself working in film and cinema. Are you okay there? He's always found himself in those roles, but he hasn't, it's almost like he just hasn't really had to work for it. It just naturally fell his way. So that's interesting. Anyway, I've got it on a setting on my app on my phone, so we can look at their tightest aspects. So let's have a little look and see what we can see. So the tightest, I think it's Amber Heard's nodes are sesquiquadrate, I can never say it, sesquiquadrate, Johnny Depp's Chiron, and semi-square as well. So that's interesting, isn't it? That's very interesting, because it's like it's the tightest. There's like 1 minute of orb separating them. So that's interesting. So this feels like fated, and it feels like a painful, let's have a look. So her nodes are at 22, Capricorn and Cancer, and his Chiron is at 14 of Pisces. So they are picking up on that Chiron, which I already kind of looked at. What else have we got here? So they've got a Moon Jupiter sextile. So her Jupiter is sextile his Moon, which probably feels quite nice. And then we have, let's see, their Junos are square. That's interesting. I'm just looking for anything. We know about the conjunction between the Mercury and the Venus. Her Moon is sesquiquadrate his Saturn, which is important to him because Saturn rules his Moon. So you can almost see the synastry where they fell for each other, what works for them, but you can also see what doesn't. Actually, they've also got, which is interesting, so her Sun is trine his Uranus. Her Sun is trine his Uranus. Oh, yes, that's right, yeah. So that's interesting, because you do, with Sun and Uranus in a relationship, it can be that great spark of excitement, that chemistry, especially with her Mars on his Moon as well. There can be a real attraction there, and it can feel very attractive, but then it can repel as well with that Uranus. And it is one of those things where it feels like, Uranus over time can push away rather than, awaken and attract. Anyway, as you can hear, my little man is in the background getting quite active with the toys, entertaining himself. So Ewan's in the background now, and he's starting to play a lot with toys and things, so it's going to be difficult for me to continue. But needless to say, I'm not saying who's right and wrong here, but there's a lot of factors here that you can look at which really, you can see like the attraction, you can see the repulsion, you can see his flaws, you can see her flaws. Let's say here, none of us are infallible. We're all human beings. We're all navigating life the best we can. And sometimes in the wrong situation that brings out the worst in you, it can get ugly. So let me leave it on that note. If you've enjoyed the episode, don't forget to rate the podcast. You can do that on Spotify, and you can also leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Any of the reviews that I really like, I will read out on the show, and then you are welcome to contact me, DM me or email me, and I can send you a little interpretation of your natal chart if you so wish, as a little thank you. But I'm going to leave it there because Ewan's starting to get quite vocal. Oh, one other thing, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, send me a screenshot or email me and let me know, so that I definitely have you down, and I can put you in a draw for a Magic of Eye yearly astrological planner / almanac towards the end of the year, just as a thank you and a bit of fun as a competition. Hope you've enjoyed today's show. I really wish the best for Amber Heard and for Johnny Depp. I hate seeing human beings in such conflict. And I will speak to you guys next week. Take care, guys. Bye now.